kilometers west of Lhasa is one of the most important monasteries in Tibet. A pilgrimage trail leads up to Drepung Gonba that was built in 1416 by a follower of Tsongkhapas, founder of the Gelug Order. The Gelug doctrine is the earliest of the four main doctrines of Tibetan Buddhism. The followers of this order are also known as yellow caps. Colourful buildings line the road. The route to the monastery is quite arduous, as at an altitude of 5,600 meters, the air is very thin. Along the way, there are various colourful rock illustrations that give a foretaste of the Drepung Monastery. After a number of further steep steps and a brief respite from the laborious ascent, we finally enter the monastery complex of Drepung Gonba. Together with the Sera and Ganden monasteries, the Drepung Monastery complex once formed the three pillars of the state, because in earlier times no other religious doctrines were known. Monasteries played an important part in the state system of Tibet. Following China's takeover of Tibet, the Drepung ceased as a center of government. Yet it is an historic place. Long before completion of Lhasa's Potala Palace, this monastery was the residence of the predecessor of the Dalai Lama. In just a short time, the monastery that was founded by Jamchen Churchi at the beginning of the 15th century grew into a small township of monks. As the abbots of Drepung were involved in the country's most important political decisions, the monastery was often at the center of hostilities. Mongolian Zungaren and Koshotan armies destroyed much of the monastery complex. However, it was China's Cultural Revolution that brought a temporary end to the normal life in the monastery. The monks, however, have since returned. During the first part of the 17th century, under the 5th Dalai Lama, Drepung was enlarged. Many important spiritual leaders studied at one of the monastery's four faculties. Drepung was once the richest monastery in the whole of Tibet, and even with the troubled history of Tibet, the monastery buildings are still very impressive. Fortunately, the monastery complex was only slightly damaged during the Cultural Revolution, so the throne of the Dalai Lama has remained intact. The name Drepung means heap of rice. Perhaps it was named after a monastery in southern India, or after a sacrificial ritual by the monks. During the ceremony of the 37 multiple mandala, the monks sacrificed tiny heaps of rice for the world with its sensual and material temptations. On the uppermost level of the joyful palace, Ganden Phodrang, is one of the Dalai Lama's private rooms. In contrast to the humble accommodation of the monks that was destroyed during the Cultural Revolution, the most significant buildings, such as the assembly halls of the four faculties, have survived. The seat of government of the Dalai Lama and the large plenary meeting hall are still in their original condition. One of the most beautiful rooms of the Ganden Phodrang is the throne hall of the 5th Dalai Lama, who once reigned Tibet from Drepung. Other sections of the complex are less inviting, yet still have their own mystique. It's a most fascinating and impressive place. Outside the monastery, large rock pictures catch the eye, as well as Tibet's customary prayer banners. The surrounding landscape and its many high mountains is superb. From Drepung, there's a wonderful view of nature. After Ganden Phodrang, we arrive at a square outside the Chogchen Dughang, the monks' meeting hall. The monastery's large kitchen is well organized. The number of monks declined following the Cultural Revolution. Once around 10,000 monks lived in Drepung. Today, there are 500. The assembly hall is supported by 184 pillars that highlight the former wealth of the monastery. The splendid decoration of the hall underlines the special significance of the building. Within the faculty of many entrances, Goman Dratsang, in which 3,000 monks once studied, there are many fine portraits. In addition to the portraits of various Dalai Lamas, the altar wall of the Dughang, the central meeting hall of the faculty, contains 1,000 small Tsongkhapas statues. Other shrines are dedicated to various of Drepung's most notable teachers. The political influence of the abbots continued until the 20th century, but every now and then hostilities flare up. When the 13th Dalai Lama attempted to banish the Han Chinese from Tibet, open conflict broke out. In 1921, Drepung's Lhasa faculty was forced to surrender due to the pressure of the Chinese army. Peace returned, but was short-lived. In 1959, the forced annexation of Tibet by China created further problems. The subsequent Cultural Revolution brought about much social change. Most of the monks escaped and sought exile abroad. Thankfully, despite the political situation in Tibet, the monastery complex of Drepung Gonba still shines out in all of its glory.